Hello, welcome to Off Script with Tony Cash. Oh, I forgot about that.
Off Script is coming online.
Welcome to Off Script, a space for honest dialogue, real talk, and biblical clarity. You just never know. This is
Off Script. Yeah. Off Script. Oh.
Hello, welcome to Off Script with Tony Cash. I'm super excited to be with you tonight. I have my special guest here, Nikki White. Say hello to everyone, Nikki.
Hello, everyone.
Tonight's segment is going to really be about hard work isn't enough, from job strategy to personal independence. Let's just be honest. Let's deal with the hard truth. Too many people have learned how to strategize just enough to get a job, but not enough to become free from needing one. We learn how to interview, how to climb the corporate ladder, how to survive corporate life, but very few of us were taught how to build financial freedom. Now, this conversation isn't anti-job, I should say, because we do believe jobs matter. But ownership asks a deeper question. Is your career building freedom or dependency? So, how were we taught to strategize? Well, many professionals were taught work hard, get stable employment, stay loyal, don't lose your benefits. And for many families, especially African American families, this made sense historically because employment for us represented safety and survival. Nick, can you share a moment in your own journey when you realized hard work alone wasn't enough? And how did you shift towards independent financial freedom for your own life? And what was it that helped you? Or who was it in your life that helped you?
Well, it was you in my life that helped me. There was a time when I was laid off from work, and I was one of those individuals that lived paycheck to paycheck. Now this, of course, was in my younger days, but I was living paycheck to paycheck. And during that time when the paycheck ended, I didn't know what to do. I was making enough just to pay the bills, and in my mind, I didn't have enough to save. I wasn't making enough to invest. I wasn't making enough to do anything extra than pay my daily bills and buy a few toiletries, a few necessities that we need to live.
Wow. And so, sounds to me, what you learned was you learned how to get hired.
I did.
You learned how to keep a paycheck.
I did.
But not wealth structure, not ownership models, not multiple income streams, or financial leverage. Really, the truth is, for many people, Nikki, and for you at home, we've mastered getting jobs, but missed building freedom. And for many of us, security became the goal, but independence, as you heard my guest say tonight, was never in the plan. And there's an impact on the black community when we think like that. Historically, for many black families, a stable job meant dignity. Employment meant access, stability, and survival. And many generations after generations, were taught, don't lose your job. That mindset, it did protect families, but it also created a mindset of limitations. And over time, many families became emotionally dependent on employment, financially dependent on a single paycheck, and mentally tied to external validation from work. What did that produce? Fear of risk, fear of entrepreneurship, and fear of stepping away from stability, even when we knew that job was killing us. Mm-hmm. Nick, when you think about your own life, how has this mindset, safety through employment, influenced your choices, your stress, or even your sense of freedom?
Absolutely. So, like you said, we were taught growing up, don't lose your job. Keep that job, and over time, the job, if you do a good job, then the job will take care of you. But as time passed, and as we're seeing in today's times, that's just not the case. Oftentimes I depended so much on the job, I didn't look to anything else. And so when I lost that job, I was stuck. I was stagnant. But thanks to, listening to financial advisors such as yourself, we've learned not to do that.
Yes, I recall that time for your life. And I remember those days when you were dealing with the stress, when you were dealing with the fear and the anxiety. But the good thing tonight, I can openly say she's wealthy and rich now, so she doesn't have to worry about that. So that's a great thing.
That's a great thing.
That's a great thing. You know what I think I heard you say tonight is we inherited survival strategies, but now it's time to learn freedom strategy. What you think about that?
Absolutely, freedom strategies, because the economy changes from year to year, and so when companies lay employees off, then what is their next move? What are they supposed to do? Have they saved enough to live off until they have found their next job, so to speak? Yeah. Or have they developed another stream of income so that them losing that job doesn't even matter?
Yeah. What are some of the things that, as you think about what you just said, what are some of the things that you've learned that has really opened your eyes to this idea of multiple streams of income? Like, are there particular areas that you think people shy away from that they need to pay closer attention to when it comes to multiple streams of income?
I think people limit themselves with time. They say, oh, I don't have time to do that. Or what will I do? They don't believe in themselves or believe that they have the talent to even endure a second stream of income. Yeah. But in today's times, it's become a necessity. Not a question of whether you can. It's what are you going to do? Or, we've got AI, we've got a wealth of technology to help individuals develop the skills to be able to have a second stream of income. So the excuses have been taken away.
The excuses, you hear that at home? The excuses have been taken away. This whole idea about dependency on a job, many people don't just work a job, they depend on the job. They depend on the job for their identity, stability, self-worth, and family validation. And here's a family dynamic discussion I think we can have. Generational patterns can sound a little bit like this. Keep your job so you can have your benefits. Don't rock the boat. Just be thankful you have a job. And many of these messages, they come from a place of love, but they also unintentionally create dependency on the job. If you could think about what does job dependency look like in the modern time we live in, Nikki, what would you say in your mind that would tell you someone has a unhealthy job dependency, dependency on a job?
Just what you said, dependency on just the job. They don't seek out other streams of income. They don't have any they're not building generational wealth. They're not building other streams of income.
Yes.
And so they believe that the job in and of itself is all they need. They're not investing, they're not creating any other streams of income other than the job. And so when they lose that job, that's when they become dependent, they become independent, they become dismantled, they don't know what their next moves are going to be. To some degree, some individuals don't even know how they're going to pay their rent or mortgage,
Yes.
their car payments. And so not thinking outside the box now, or not having, as you stated in one of your books, changing your mindset.
Yes.
To know that the job is not enough. The
That's
job
right.
is just not enough in today's day and age.
I'd like to segue into this idea of fear. And, again, fear oftentimes is the reason we do most things. And I think in the black community, what we have found is fear of loss of job has caused so many people to accept physical and verbal abuse on the job, emotional abuse on the job. Some people are sick in their bodies and their minds, PTSD, not because they went to war, they haven't gone to Iraq, they haven't gone overseas. Listen, their job is like bombs over Baghdad.
Absolutely.
Y'all remember that song,
Yeah.
Bombs Over Baghdad? Like their jobs are like that. And I'm telling you that what we are talking about tonight is we've got to break this codependency or this dependency on jobs. When one job supports multiple generations, then guess what happens? Pressure increases, risk decreases, and burnout rises. Some people aren't working jobs. They're carrying a whole family system.
Wow.
When your income is your only support, your freedom always feels in danger. When your income is your only support, your freedom always feel in danger.
Wow.
So there's this mental and physical cost. Long-term job dependency can produce chronic stress, anxiety around job loss. You've seen it where people come to the job, they hate being there, they feel mistreated, and you say, well, why don't you leave? Why don't you get another job? And they say, I got bills to pay. I got to pay this mortgage. I got to pay. And the worst ones are when we start getting to a certain age and you see our people 70, 80, and they're still working because they feel like without that job, they won't be able to make it. So there's high burnout. And a lot of times we find in our community, we've identified so greatly with jobs that when we lose them, we have an identity crisis.
Right.
We feel like we're no longer valued. We feel like valuable. We feel like we no longer have value to society. The husband feels like without him making more money than the wife, then he loses his place and authority. And those are all of the effects that this whole job dependency has had on us. So when your whole life depends on a paycheck, rest starts to feel irresponsible. Taking time for yourself, taking some time from working, you feel irresponsible. So let's move towards empowerment, because ownership means building skills that transfer, diversifying income, and thinking like an owner, not just an employee. So we have to build financial literacy, create margin, not just income. I want to stay right there for a minute. In other words, we need to have a margin and a gap between our income and what we owe.
Yes.
And I always tell people you want about a 30 to 40% difference in what comes in and what you owe. Because that allows you to give 10 to whatever your charity or whatever you believe your heart, you believe in your heart, and then it allows you to have money for your future. So I always say about 30 to 40% and ask, what am I building outside of this job? So Nick, in your experience, what's the one belief that people have to let go before they can really pursue financial independence?
That they don't currently make enough. That what they already have is not enough for them to start.
That they don't have enough. And so in other words, it doesn't matter if it's small beginnings. What matters is that you are beginning. Because for so many of us, we just have not even begun to save, to invest. And one of the things that does, it causes that chronic stress. It causes that anxiety. It causes that, as a pastor, I'll say this. When I have to ask for money, before I ask, I know the people are going to go, oh, Lord. So before I even ask, I go ahead and do my oh, Lord, before I even ask. I said, Lord, you want me to ask them? I said, oh, Lord, they broke, busted, and disgusted. And now you want me to tell them to be broke, busted, disgusted, and trusted? And they looking at me going, no. And one of the reasons, to be honest with you, is this. If you don't prepare for life, then you prepare for whatever life brings you. In other words, things just rush upon you and you get no option. Nick, as you think about that statement, tell us about a time in your life when you weren't preparing for life. Life was just rushing upon you.
Absolutely. So again, a time when I did not have that job, and I was nervous. I didn't have the faith. I had fear. And during that time, it was like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to turn to? Are my lights going to get cut off? Am I going to get put out of where I was staying at the time? And so that fear kept me, continuing to do odd jobs so that wouldn't happen. That fear kept me saying, I gotta do better. I cannot continue to live like this. Because, we all, when we're going through things, we all feel like, oh, I'm the only one. But I was made aware very quickly that no, I was not the only one. So in that, what could I do, or what was I gonna do so I wasn't gonna ever feel like this ever again? I didn't want to have that fear. It was not a good feeling. And so I didn't want to fear my lights being cut off. My lights have never been cut off in my life.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, without a paycheck, how am I going to pay the light bill?
Yeah.
Am I going to have a roof over my head? What am I going to eat?
And now, I mean this with a holy cleanliness that I'm about to say. But when your money is funny and your money not straight, there are ideas and thoughts that you might entertain.
Absolutely.
That you would never entertain.
Right.
So that's when, if you're a woman, you have to cut your phone off. Because the text messages that you used to say, I ain't studying him, if you ain't prepared your money right, he started looking real cruel. Now he is cross-eyed, but at least he bow-legged. And he got some money. And that's what we're trying to talk to you tonight about. We don't want you to have to give in to bow-legged, cross-eyed Bob. We want you to have your money right. Because one of the things that I know helps is having the mindset of delayed gratification.
Absolutely.
You know, delayed gratification says, I see how if I sacrifice today, that tomorrow my life will be doubly better than it is today. That's what delayed gratification. In other words, delayed gratification is all about preventing current delay or future aggravation. And so many people are so upset right now in their finances. Maybe what God is asking them to do or give, what life is asking them to do or give. And it has zero, Nick, to do with today.
Zero.
It's all about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's all about 15 years ago. When that individual made the choice to say, I want what I want now, and I'll let tomorrow take care of itself. I don't know about you, but I have to say, and maybe you can relate to this, Nikki, time flies by very fast.
Very fast.
I mean, one day you are swinging on the monkey bars, and the next day you are the monkey on the bar. And you look up like, what happened? Because time waits for no man. I'd love to ask you in this last few moments that we have, Nikki, was there a time in your life where you could see in that current moment you were paying for previous financial wrongdoings that you had?
Absolutely. So it was, when you are a 2-adult household to just going down to 1.
Yes.
And so during that time for me, it was, it took 2 adults to pay all the bills, but then all of a sudden it was just the 1. So again, that feeling of what am I going to do? What is going to get paid versus what's not going to get paid? I needed a plan. I needed a financial strategy. But like you have said in the past, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And so exposure also helps that with the knowing better.
Yes.
I remember the time you told me, well, you may just have to cut your cable off.
First of all, let me start. First of all, when she first started hearing how I talked about finances and I was saying, cut all these things out, it was like, no, I love my cable. I could just recall that.
I was upset. But then, something you did years ago, you were like, that $100 a month times 12 times 5 or 6 years, that was $5,000 and $6,000. And so that was the point where I had to sit back and say, you know what? $5,000 or $6,000 just to watch TV?
Yes.
What could I do with that $5,000 or $6,000,
Yes.
$5,000 or $6,000 right now?
Yes. Yes.
In that moment.
Yes. Because the time is going to come. You may as well allow it to come where you're prepared. So there's an audience question that says, when you were under all that pressure, did you ever just consider stripping? No, that ain't.
Absolutely not.
Did you ever consider dancing? Magic City was hiring at the no. But the thing about it is, now hold on. Nobody out there think Pastor saying dance. No, dancing for money. No, don't do that. But the thing is that the real truth is, you want to give yourself positive options. You want to give yourself a blessed future. And you want to make sure that you can see a better tomorrow because of the things, the great financial decisions you make today. As we close out, Nikki, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds and then I'm going to close us out. Tell the people at home, our viewers at home and our people here, one thing that you believe will change their financial future if they would just adapt that.
Changing your mindset. Changing having that mindset of having delayed gratification. I'll never forget an older friend of mine told me that she ate oatmeal twice a day for a year so that she could pay her house off.
Wow.
And so when you know, in my younger days, that's not something I would ever do. You know, I enjoy new restaurants. I love, you know, trying new things. But when she said that, and the fact that she is a single woman and has her house paid off, I had to, you know, change my mindset that, wow, you know, delayed gratification. Now she's able to eat wherever she wants to go because she has, you know, that extra income to be able to do those things. So it's the delayed gratification. You know, now when I go to Marshalls and TJ Maxx, you know, I will do the Pastor E and say, where am I going? Do I really need this? Is this something that I need right this second? Or is this something that I can wait and, you know, put a little money to the side for and get later? So changing my mindset has definitely helped, and that delayed gratification.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. You know, that some people may call that extreme. I call that self-care. I call that caring. I call that, and I think I said this one day as I was speaking, I call that caring today and loving your future self. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think this is all about tonight, is caring today. And I think your future self will say, I'm so happy that you took care of me. Mm-hmm. I'm so happy that you cared enough for me to prepare me, because nobody wants to be in their future fighting with that past demon. You want to be in your future full of joy.
Right.
So I'm going to go off script here a little bit for a minute as we close. And we call this Tony Off Script. Our parents taught us how to survive, and we honor that. But survival isn't the finish line. Some of us worked so hard to get the jobs we have that we forgot to build the life. And if your strategy only keeps you employed but never breaks you free of that job, then your strategy is incomplete. Ownership starts when you ask yourself, what am I building that will outlive my paycheck? Mm-hmm. What happens if the job disappears tomorrow? And am I teaching my children dependency or life design? You can't respect the job and still plan your freedom. And the goal is not to quit work. The goal is to stop letting work define your worth. Work hard, yes, but build something that works for you. Build something that gives you a future outside of that job. Build something that the next generation of you, your children's children, will say thank you. But most of all, self. Take care of that person, not only that you are, but the person that you are becoming. Because the person that you are becoming will thank you if you'll do that. Tonight, this segment is all about making sure that we not only respect the job, not only respect the career that we have, but that we respect the fact that as a people, we deserve financial freedom. We've worked long enough. We've worked hard enough. We've been sick and tired long enough. And now it's time for us to shift gears, to move from dependency on jobs to financial freedom. And that tonight is what Off Script with Tony Cash is all about. Moving you from dependency on a job to financial freedom in your life. I'm looking forward to the next segment of Off Script. It's been a joy tonight to have you, Nikki, as my guest. And for you at home, never forget, you're worth the very best in this life because you were the very best that God created. That's Off Script.
We hope you enjoyed today's segment. Look at the bottom of your screen to connect with the Leadership Center. While you're there, please consider giving. Your support helps us continue real conversations, biblical truth, and real freedom. Thank you for watching.